Benelli Super Black Eagle 3. Benelli's inertia-driven Super Black Eagle line traces to the early 1990s, when the U.S. lead shot ban for waterfowling forced hunters toward heavier, longer, non-toxic loads. The original SBE appeared in 1992 and immediately addressed that shift by reliably cycling 2 3/4, 3, and 3.5-inch 12-gauge shells without adjustment. The operating principle comes from Bruno Civillani's 1967 patent, which remains intact in concept. A simple, clean-running inertia system that avoids the fouling common to gas pistons in cold, wet blinds. Early U.S. distribution ran through Heckler & Koch until Benelli USA took over, after which the platform's reputation spread rapidly through waterfowl circles. Subsequent iterations pushed refinement rather than reinvention. The SBE-2 arrived in 2003 with cryogenically treated barrels and ComfortTech recoil mitigation features. In 2017, the SBE-3 introduced revised ergonomics, an easy-locking bolt, enhanced loading ejection geometry, and some other modern features. Controls grew deliberately oversized to aid gloved manipulation. In its current form, the SBE-3 is produced in both 12 and 20 gauge, with options for 3-inch chambers alongside the traditional 3.5-inch magnums. The system's appeal remains consistent: comparatively low maintenance, reliable cycling in adverse conditions, and handling tuned for serious duck and goose work. It remains Benelli's flagship waterfowl autoloader, with broad recognition among dedicated hunters. Beretta 1301 Tactical. Beretta's 1301 Tactical appeared in 2014 after the 1301 competition variant proved itself in 3-gun settings the year prior. It represents Beretta's modern re-entry into the dedicated tactical and defensive semi-auto space, using the company's Blink gas system to achieve very fast cycling. Beretta advertises that mechanism as significantly quicker than typical autoloaders, a claim aided in practice by a self-cleaning cross-tube gas piston whose elastic seal scrapes carbon as it moves. The core package is compact and light for a 12-gauge semi-auto, with an 18.5-inch cold hammer forged Stelium barrel, a 3-inch chamber, and a nominal 4+1 capacity that many owners extend with aftermarket tubes. The rotating 2-lug bolt head locks into the barrel extension, contributing to durability and consistent head support with slugs. Sighting is through a protected front post and ghost ring rear, with a Picatinny rail integral to the receiver. The short length of pull accommodates armor and other gear. Controls: the bolt handle, safety, and bolt release are intentionally oversized, and the forend carries aggressive texturing with dual ergonomic grooves. The 1301 Tactical is aimed at law enforcement and civilian defense roles, with handling shaped by competition practice, short overall length, rapid follow-up capability, and sighting that balances speed with precision at typical buckshot and slug distances. It remains in production with periodic limited configurations. Mossberg 590A1. The 590A1 is the military-focused evolution of the Mossberg 500 family. It was in 1987 when the Model 590 arrived to meet mil-spec requirements, and subsequent U.S. Navy requests led to the 590A1 with a thicker barrel, metal trigger guard and safety, extended magazine, and provision for a bayonet. The heavy-walled tube and Parkerized finish support hard use in maritime and field environments. Mechanically, the 590A1 retains dual action bars for more consistent stroke geometry, and a magazine cleanout cap simplifies maintenance without full disassembly. Typical defensive configurations use 20-inch barrels with 3-inch chambers and capacities ranging from 6 to 8 rounds, and some models include a heat shield or barrel shroud. The U.S. Navy has been a primary user, with Army and Marine Corps elements fielding the pattern for close quarters work, shipboard defense, and door breaching. Law enforcement agencies that prefer pumps for simplicity and ammunition flexibility have kept the 590A1 in circulation. Civilian owners often select it for the same reasons: durability, straightforward manual of arms, and a configuration that mirrors proven service patterns. Mossberg continues to catalog numerous variants, including optics-ready and retro furniture options, along with related models such as the Shockwave and detachable box magazine versions. Ithaca Model 37. Ithaca's Model 37 descends from John Browning's 1915 design that became the Remington Model 17, with later refinements by John Peterson. Patent timing delayed Ithaca's version until 1937, when engineer Harry Howland finalized a receiver and ejection system that simplified production compared to earlier approaches. The Model 37's defining trait is its single bottom port for loading and ejection, which keeps the receiver closed to debris and makes the gun equally convenient for right or left-handed shooters. Over decades, the line has carried multiple names. Dedicated models like the Deer Slayer and Turkey Slayer tailored barrels and sights for specific game. Pistol grip stakeout versions with short barrels appeared in police catalogs and on television, contributing to public recognition beyond hunting fields. The action uses a conventional slide with a steel receiver, offered historically in 12, 16, 20, and 28 gauge, with 2 3/4 and 3-inch chambers depending on model. Early examples lacked a disconnector, so holding the trigger while cycling produced continuous fire. Later production added a conventional trigger mechanism. Ithaca has continued to build the Model 37 in the United States, now in Upper Sandusky, Ohio, maintaining the bottom eject architecture and offering modern sighting options such as red front elements on some models. The pattern retains a following among those who value the closed receiver and classic handling, and it remains available new. Winchester Model 1897. John Browning's Model 1897 was the strengthened successor to Winchester's earlier 1893 pump, addressing action durability and accommodating the 2 5/8 and 2 3/4-inch shells that were becoming standard. Introduced in 1897 and produced until 1957, it exceeded 1 million units and helped define the early pump-action era. The action features an external hammer, a top bridge reinforcing the receiver, and a bolt lock with a movable cartridge guide. The takedown option appeared in 1898, allowing barrel changes and easier transport. Model 97 and trench gun remain the common designations, the latter denoting the military configuration with a 20-inch barrel, heat shield, sling swivels, and a bayonet lug. The trigger mechanism on period guns does not employ a disconnector, so the action will fire with each completed pump stroke if the trigger is held, something later designs largely avoided. The gun saw widespread service in World War I and continued in World War II and later conflicts in riot and guard roles. While it achieved renown in close-quarters contexts, contemporary accounts also note that early paper shells could swell when wet, and the full-length guns were not ideal inside trenches. Production ended in the late 1950s. Today, original trench configurations are particularly sought by collectors, and reproductions from overseas manufacturers serve historical reenactors and cowboy action competitors. Winchester Model 12. The Model 12 entered the market in 1912 as Winchester's refined hammerless pump, a premium successor to the exposed hammer Model 1897. Winchester initially released the design in 20 gauge, before adding 12 and 16 the next year, positioning the new action without directly displacing the earlier gun. The receiver and internals represented a high level of machining for the time, and the takedown arrangement allowed barrel swaps and compact storage with a secure lockup. A distinctive feature is the forward press required to unlock the pump, intended to prevent the action opening under recoil. Production ran into the mid-1960s, with numerous sporting and service configurations. Military and police agencies adopted riot and trench variants across multiple conflicts, while trap and field models developed a reputation for smooth cycling and durable fitment. The line never offered a 410 variant, Winchester addressed that demand with the separate Model 42, a scaled design purpose-built for that bore. The cost of production, machined parts, and skilled labor eventually led Winchester to discontinue the Model 12 in favor of more economical designs, though special runs appeared afterward. On today's used market, trench and riot versions remain particularly desirable, and many field guns continue to see regular use. Browning Auto 5. John Moses Browning finalized the Auto 5 in 1902 as the first mass-produced semi-automatic shotgun. Negotiations with Winchester ended over contract terms, and a subsequent approach to Remington collapsed after the company's president died suddenly. Browning then partnered with Fabrique Nationale in Belgium to begin production that same year. The Auto 5's long recoil operation, where barrel and bolt recoiled together before separating to cycle, was novel and proved durable across climates and ammunition of the era. The profile is immediately recognizable, a squared humpback receiver that extends the sighting plane and frames the rear of the bolt. Original production skewed to 12 and 16 gauge, with later 20 gauge offerings. The platform served in both World Wars and appears in accounts of British military use during anti-insurgency campaigns of the 1950s. Advisors in early Vietnam sometimes carried personally owned examples. Civilian hunters adopted it for high-volume waterfowling and general field work. Production under the original pattern continued into the late 1990s before Browning paused the line. In 2011, the company introduced a modern A5, distinct internally from the long recoil original. The contemporary version uses a recoil-driven kinematic system with many modern features. Original Auto 5s remain common on the secondary market, while the current A5 occupies Browning's auto-loading slot with a round-count rating designed for substantial field use. Benelli M4. Developed in 1998 for the U.S. military's Joint Service Combat Shotgun Program, the Benelli M4 marked a shift toward standardized semi-automatic shotguns in American service. It was adopted as the M114 in 1999 after strong trial performance and went into production while evaluations were still underway. Unlike Benelli's earlier inertia-operated M1, M2 lines, the M4 employs a dual short-stroke gas system, Argo for auto-regulating gas-operated, positioned under the handguards with chrome-plated pistons. The design is tolerant of accessories that change reciprocating mass and back pressure and is less sensitive to ammunition variability. Major components include an alloy receiver with a steel barrel extension, a 12-gauge barrel of 18.5 inches, and a rotating bolt head with 2 locking lugs. Military configurations typically use a fixed improved cylinder choke and a one-piece 7+1 magazine tube, while many law enforcement and commercial models ship with 2-piece or reduced capacity tubes for compliance and ease of barrel swaps. LPA ghost ring sights are standard, along with a Picatinny rail for optics. The U.S. Marine Corps became the principal user, with smaller quantities fielded by other branches. Law enforcement agencies adopted the same pattern. In the commercial arena, the M4 occupies a defensive and competition niche, and it appears frequently in contemporary media and games. Production for military, LE, and civilian markets has continued into the present. Mossberg 500. Mossberg introduced the Model 500 in 1961, designed by Carl Benson to provide a modular, affordable pump with broad appeal. Early production used a single-action bar. Once a relevant patent expired, Mossberg shifted to dual-action bars in 1970 to reduce binding and improve cycling consistency. The platform grew into a large family. Field models cover hunting needs with 18.5 to 28-inch barrels. Persuader and cruiser configurations tune the pattern for defense, while dedicated police versions have appeared in patrol racks for decades. Mossberg experimented with form factor in the 1980s via a factory bullpup variant and later expanded to related lines. The 535 chambered for 3.5-inch shells, the 590 evolved for military requirements, and the 590A1 with heavy barrel and bayonet fittings. More recent offshoots include the short overall length Shockwave and the 590M with a detachable box magazine. Service use has been wide, including the U.S. Navy, Coast Guard, Army, and Marine Corps, along with foreign militaries. Law enforcement agencies in the United States and abroad have long relied on the 500/590 lineage for patrol and special purpose roles. On the civilian side, the ease of swapping barrels and furniture has made the series a common household and hunting tool. The line remains in current production across numerous configurations. Remington 870. Remington's 870 appeared in 1950 as the more economical, mass-production-friendly successor to the hand-fitted Model 31. Engineers leveraged parts commonality with the company's 1148 autoloader by basing the 12-gauge 870 around the 16-gauge receiver form, yielding a trimmer profile. The early catalog included AP and ADL grades, with an optional steel vari-weight plug to alter balance for different tasks. Gauges at launch were 12, 16, and 20, with a 3-inch 12-gauge Magnum added in 1955 and a 3-inch 20-gauge following in 1960. Later, Super Magnum 3.5-inch variants broadened the portfolio. The 870 proliferated across hunting camps, police cruisers, and military armories. Law enforcement agencies adopted it widely for patrol and special weapons roles, while military units fielded versions in jungle and desert conditions where simple manual operation and robustness were valued. Remington manufactured the 870 in Ilion, New York for decades, and by 2009 production passed the 10 million mark, making it the most popular shotgun in the world. Across 7 decades, the essential pump architecture has not changed. A solid steel receiver, twin bars, and geometry that continues to work with a wide range of tasks and ammunition. The 870 remains in manufacture across hunting, tactical, and competition configurations, supported by a large aftermarket that keeps older examples current with modern sights, stocks, and small parts updates. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, share it with your fellow gun geeks, and subscribe so you don't miss more content like this. Thanks for watching.